Hey everyone, welcome into Attacking Third alongside Aaron West, Christine Cupo. I'm Lisa Carlin. Today we are diving into women's Euros qualifiers. We're updating you on the latest news. We'll get former U.S. international midfielder Sam Mewis on the show. And of course, we are chatting the United States women's national team as they take on Mexico in the penultimate match before the Paris Olympics. But Aaron, Christine, we are in the midst of celebrating the 25th anniversary of the 1999 Women's World Cup, in which the United States defeated China 5-4 on penalties. Brandi Chastain rips off her shirt. She celebrates around the field. The Rose Bowl was packed with over 90,000 fans. Yeah. The 25th anniversary was yesterday, and we are celebrating it throughout this week. The U.S. will celebrate it this weekend, but I want to know from you guys. Aaron, I'll start with you. When you think back to that 1999 Women's World Cup and the iconic names on that roster, who's your favorite player from that match?
Oh, man. First of all, that's like asking you to pick one of your favorite kids, both of them. Both of them. All of them. We love all of them equally.
The coach, everyone.
As a black man, seeing the joy on my mom's face watching Bryce Scurry lift that World Cup trophy, nothing will ever match that. Always was a Mia Hamm fan. All the UNC players on that, but probably, honestly, weirdly enough, Carla Overbeck. When I grew up in Chapel Hill, I used to go to Finley Fields and train all the time. I used to randomly end up kicking around with a lot of the current, former UNC players. One day I was out there, got to kick around with Carla Overbeck. She gave me a pair of her boots, like the Fila signature boots that she had at the time. I scored a bunch of goals in those boots, like so many goals.
It's like
then I passed them on to like a friend, like a friend of mine who also was a player. She like didn't have boots, and I grew out of them. I got to pass them on. I was like, these are Carla Overbeck's boots, and she didn't really get it at the time, but I think because of that connection, Carla Overbeck is just a player that I've been a big fan of. But that entire team, they were so inspiring, especially like growing up in the home of women's soccer, Chapel Hill, watching them win with so many Carolina players was just amazing for me.
What about you, Chris?
I think everybody knows this because I'm very vocal all the time. I love Mia Hamm. I was always...
You're the only one. It's weird.
I know. It's very strange. Very niche interest of mine. You've never heard of her, I'm sure. No, I started playing when I was 4, and I was always very interested in playing. I loved playing. Yeah. I didn't care so much about watching other people play, which I think is probably a little strange for a kid, but... I watched Italian football, and then I fell in love with Mia Hamm, and I just was like, her. I want to watch her all the time, and so that was probably a lot of what formed me and part of my soccer brain. So, I mean, thank you, Mia Hamm. Hopefully, one of these days we can get her on the show, please.
Oh, that would be great. Mia Hamm, for sure, my favorite.
Please, we can talk to you about whatever you want.
We love you all. Any of you? Yeah, Mia Hamm's a great shout. I loved watching her, and just her subtle technique and her ability to be flashy and flair in her play, though, and that was it. She was so serious and so dedicated to the game. It was always fun to watch those players. I mean, all of them inspired and helped lead so many more to come behind them. Men, women, children, adults, everyone. We will talk more.
Wait, you got to pick one.
Mia Hamm.
It is Mia Hamm. Okay.
Yeah,
I thought you were just piggybacking, obviously she's amazing.
Christine Lilly, like, iconic. There's so many, honestly.
They're all so good. It's just, I feel like it's whoever you identify with. And I feel like that's one thing that was really important about that team is like, you did have black players.
Yeah, you
could
pick
see
someone
yourself
out that
in
you
people,
saw yourself in.
You know, and again, like, it's something that I feel like we focus more on now, present day, about like, see it, be it. And that wasn't something that was talked about back then. It was just happenstance. And you got excited and it reinvigorated you as a person.
Exactly. The impact of those 99ers continues to ripple around and will continue to ripple throughout this show. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on. But we have some big news that we have to chat about. Australian goalkeeper Mackenzie Arnold is headed to the NWSL. She has signed a contract with the Portland Thorns through the 2026 season with an option for 2027. The Australian spent the last 4 seasons with West Ham United in England. For this season, Bella Bigsby, goalkeeper for the Thorns, is out on maternity leave, so Shelby Hogan has played every single second for the Thorns. With Arnold coming in, it will be after the Paris Olympics, Aaron, but what does Arnold add to Portland's roster?
A wealth of international experience. We saw when they went to the quarterfinals of the World Cup in 2023, she made a plethora of penalty saves, so we know if someone steps up to the spot, they got a second thought coming their way. She's 30 years old, which in keeper terms, that's right in the middle of your prime. You've matured, you know how to read the game. When we've seen her shot-stopping abilities, so this is, I think, just elevates Portland Thorns. They needed a little bit of an injection. They need help defensively. Obviously, Bella Bixby out on a maternity leave. But yeah, I think this is a very, very good signing for the Thorns. I think it elevates them a bit.
Absolutely. I mean, 3-time goalkeeper of the year. She'll be at the Olympics, so iron sharpens iron, or whatever the heck that's saying. Is that right? Is it steel? I don't know.
I think it's iron sharpens. You got it right.
It gives us another opportunity for me to say things like, "Oh, Nor," in my terrible Australian accent. But I'm excited to see her get added to that Portland side.
Yeah,
they've been much, much better, and I think that just reinvigorates some of their defending, clean sheets, et cetera.
Another wrinkle for Portland to add through their roster as they head into this NWSL summer break. The Thorns currently sitting in 5th place in the standings, 8 wins, 3 draws, and 5 losses. Coming up this weekend, the United States women's national team takes on Mexico in the second to last match before the United States heads to Paris for the Olympics. This match happening July 13th at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. It's at Red Bull Arena in Jersey. You can join us live on youtube.com/attackingthird immediately post-match for our reactions. But we have to dive into this match and preview everything about it, because this is a rematch of the CONCACAF W Gold Cup. In February, Mexico defeated the United States 2-0. Jackie Ovalle and Mayra Pelayo getting 2 goals over the United States, and that shook everything for the U.S. Aaron, the U.S. now has a chance to redeem themselves against Mexico. How much growth do you need to see from the United States women's national team?
First of all, I think that this opponent is perfect for the U.S. 2 matches ahead of this tournament, ahead of the Olympics. A team that will go all out, that has a massive history with the U.S., that has now the edge in their last matchup. This Mexico team has quality, but on the U.S. side, I want to see urgency. I want to see that fight and the grit and the desire that has been a hallmark and a staple of U.S. women's national teams of the past. I think complacency kind of feels like the word that's snuck in recently over the last couple years, and I think all of that is out of the window with Emma Hayes now. I want to see that dog. It's the easiest way I can see it. I want to see that dog come out. And I think that this group that has been selected is a strong group. I think it is an incredibly competent group. I think it is a group that can win. But I want to see that fight. That's really what I want. I don't necessarily need to see slick passing play right now. I would love to see wonderful combination play, but I want to see players get stuck in. I want to see them running. I want to see them fighting. That's the biggest thing that I want to see right now is the effort and the desire from this group.
The level of competition between the U.S. and Mexico is there. It's always there. They're CONCACAF rivals. How much of an edge, Christine, do you believe the U.S. has now, knowing that the last time they played Mexico just a few months ago, they lost?
Oh, I think that irrespective of that, it's embarrassing, right? This is a U.S. women's national team. You don't lose like that, especially to a team that, you've never fallen to before. I think that I expect to see a little bit more of Emma Hayes' fingerprints on this at this point, now that she's had a little bit of time with them. I think we saw really bright spots of just chemistry, especially Trinity Sophia, Jaden Shaw, Mal, like coming together where it's like there's joy in that play. And I like seeing that because that is a positive indicator in my opinion. But I think just seeing everything again, getting a second look at it, especially against Mexico, which they will have active and lively fans in stadium. I think it gives a good environment just to prove and test again. One last go before we have one more friendly and then off to the Olympics.
It's crazy to think how quick it is coming. And for Emma Hayes, this will be her second camp with this group as the new head coach. In their first camp together, the U.S. defeated South Korea in both of their matches and shut them out. Now in this second camp, Aaron, when you look at the 18 players really only that are going to Paris, plus the 4 alternates, who do you want to have a good game against Mexico?
Just personally, Crystal Dunn, always, every day.
I feel like she's a guarantee.
In the front line or in the back? Where do you want her to play?
What I would also, aside from the grit and the desire that I'd like to see, I would like to see a bit of tactical flexibility, a little bit of. I don't know if we necessarily will see this against Mexico, or maybe we would see it against Costa Rica. I would love to see them switch formations in the middle of a match to say that a plan B is a possibility, that we can change the approach if we need to in the middle of the match, and that the players are now comfortable doing this. That's a staple, a hallmark of Emma Hayes' teams. I don't know if she's had enough time to be able to do that. I would love to. I'm not saying it has to happen,
such a good
but
shout.
if I could see that, that would be incredible.
Okay, so typically we've seen Emma Hayes play in a bit of a hybrid 4-3-3 with sometimes shifting into a 3-back with that outside back pressing higher. If there's another formation you would want to see, what is it?
A back three, an out-and-out back three. Obviously, again, like you said, it can change in possession, out of possession, but I want to see that flexibility. It doesn't have to be like, oh, they're straight up changing from a back four to a back three. But if situations in the Mexico match present themselves that we see that, okay, very obviously a tactical shift needs to be made, I would like that shift to be made. Those are the things that I would like to see.
That's a really good shout, actually, because you know that she selected the squad for versatility and high utility.
Yeah.
But seeing it actually being implemented this early, that would actually excite me.
Yeah, that would get me out of my seat.
When you look at this Mexican side, they are aggressive. They've got high confidence going into this match. How can Mexico test the United States?
I mean, they have a number of champions right now in Tigres femenil players that are absolutely ready to go. They omitted from their Olympic squad a lot of their seasoned vets, which isn't super surprising because Pedro Lopez is known for cultivating youth and leaning into that. But I think they're capable of providing a solid defense against them, if not an attack. I think they're formidable enough as long as they maintain their composure. I think that they have the capacity to actually give the U.S. a hard time.
Mexico can be susceptible to being stretched, right, when they really get their front line pressing high against the United States and their back line stays, and that's where the U.S. is going to have to find those moments, capitalize on the space between the lines, and look to progress the ball forward with patience as well in their build-up. That's something Emma Hayes, the U.S. coach,
ruthlessness.
wants to see.
I want to see that ruthlessness back.
Ruthlessness. It's the United States against Mexico Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. It's the Impact 99 match honoring 25 years since the 1999 Women's World Cup. Sandra Herrera joins us next to chat about that.
You know, this team hasn't really had that kind of mentality, Tony, about like, hey, we did this. We feel that we were a part of this movement. We happened to come along collectively at a time when it was really prime for us to do something big, and we pushed the envelope. We were brave, and we pushed FIFA to allow the U.S. To allow the World Cup Committee to put this tournament from coast to coast, north to south, and in the biggest stadiums ever. I mean, in comparison to 95 in Sweden, which stadiums were like 10,000 seats, you know, filling the Rose Bowl was unheard of. And so I think just that diligence and the intention and the love and the joy of the game, we do see that cropping up, and we see that propagating through communities across this country, and we do feel good about it. But honestly, you know, in our heads, we're not sitting there going, we did that. That's not really what this team is about.
That was the iconic U.S. Women's National Team defender, Brandi Chastain, who was part of that legendary 1999 Women's World Cup winning squad. That was just iconic, made history throughout the world. And for more on this, we bring in our good friend, Sandra Herrera, to chat about the 99ers. Sandra, before we get into all of it, I want to know from you, who's your favorite 99er?
Oh gosh, it's a two-way tie, pretty even between Bryce Curry and Mia Hamm. Those are my two icons. Yeah.
I like that. I mean, Mia Hamm is legendary, but Bryce Curry set the tone for goalkeepers and everything that you can do and aspire to be, as did so many of these 99ers. And Sandra, this team, Brandi Chastain just talked about it, had such an impact on football globally and in the States. But when we look at it specifically in the United States, what came after that 1999 Women's World Cup?
You know, I think we hear the phrase, it's not a moment, it's a movement. It's tossed around like free candy nowadays. But I think can't know where you're going until you know where you've been, right? And I think this is sort of that tangible kind of moment, that thing that you can grasp onto and point to and say, okay, so this is actually where it kind of started a bit. So I think it's very fitting that, you know, in this series of send-off games for the current Olympic roster to kind of coincide with a celebration of that very particular and specific memorable moment, I think is very significant because the legacy and the impact of it can be felt tenfold. And I think we have seen it in terms of a lot of different ways. Coming out of that World Cup, all of the buzz and excitement and the need to sort of latch on to that. We saw it, I think, in the iteration of 2 attempts to try to have women's professional soccer in the United States. But you also hear it from players themselves, current and former, in terms of the impact that moment had on them specifically. They saw women on the pitch doing an incredible thing, winning a major international tournament and doing it in front of sellout crowds. And it absolutely inspired waves and waves of future players. And I would argue that it also just changed the general space for women's soccer as a whole.
Sandra, I'm glad you mentioned that because we've heard Emma Hayes talk about how much the 99ers impacted her even overseas in England. And I think we talk a lot about the scope and the impact of how it affected U.S. soccer. But even bigger, it massively affected women's soccer around the world. Can you talk a little bit about that impact and what we're seeing now from that 99ers legacy?
Yeah, for sure. I think while we obviously celebrate this moment, I think it's also very important to note that because of the magnitude of that moment, it also asked a lot of questions in future eras and in future decades. So I think Emma Hayes is obviously an incredible shout there to note that that's someone that this team had an impact on. But I think even and we look fast forward a little bit, we see the fight continue for women's equity across the board in global soccer, and how that team and teams in the future were basically looked to as an example of trying to fight for one's sort of equitable rights within their team. And tragically, we still sort of hear that from other teams across the globe, that they're fighting for resources, more support from their federations. And it really started with this team in particular, maybe not out of that specific 1999 World Cup, but in future tournaments, they found themselves having to kind of have those conversations with their federations to fight for minimum standards. And so I think in that aspect, we also need to take a look at this 99ers group and say there were a lot of questions that were asked in future eras of this program about what it means and what it wants to look like. I think by its definition, at that moment in time, people looked at that 1999 squad, and since then, it kind of was definitive of being a white suburban girl sport. And now here we are looking ahead to these upcoming Paris Olympics, and everyone is celebrating the fact that the forward core are a mix of Black identifying players who come across multicultural backgrounds. And that is something to be celebrated in this era.
Sandra, so in the spirit of moment, I would say, for me at least, that 99 team, one of the moments that was very emblematic of this movement going forward was the actual Sports Illustrated coverage that they got. That was unprecedented previously. Now, you've been covering this game for a really long time, and the game has inarguably evolved, not necessarily as fast as we'd like it to. Can you point to a moment in this current movement that to you is sort of equivalent to that Sports Illustrated or in the same vein?
Yeah, absolutely. I think probably the players all getting in front of or latching onto, really, and continuing that fight for equity. I think the players signing that very historic collective bargaining agreement with U.S. Soccer alongside the men's national team is probably equivalent to all of that aura that came out of 1999. And I think you look at the time span of it and you say, wow, that really took a long time. But it was something to be celebrated. I think when it got signed, you you saw 99ers celebrating that with this current program and the players who are a part of that at this moment. And there's a little bit of a layer where it's like, I don't want to say relief, but sometimes when you find yourselves being the pioneers or the first leading things, you don't always get to see the fruits of that labor. And that's not the case with this U.S. Women's National Team program. They got to see these players, unfortunately, still have to fight within these arenas, but kind of be able to come out on the other side, I think is massive. And I don't know if there's something that's comparable to that within U.S. sporting history.
Sandra, for us, you, me, us sitting at this desk, we follow still a lot of these 99ers and what they're doing. Heck, Brandi Chastain was on Morning Footy today. We get to hear Julie Foudy call games all the time. Saskia Weber calls games. But let's do a little like celebrity version, Us Weekly, of where are they now? Where are so many of these 99ers now?
Yeah, no, it's fun to talk about that and think about it. Well, obviously, some of them are working with us. Sometimes they do appearances and broadcasts, and I love that we've been able to chat with Julie Foudy or have Brandi Chastain on the show. Bryce Scurry has sat at that desk. You know, it's been cool to see that. But they've also ventured into other arenas, whether it's been coaching or, you know, technical advisors. We see some of these players launch Angel City as well. I think that is incredible. I think that adds to that sort of legacy that those 99ers built, that it didn't just stop there, that you always kind of have to look for that next move and find those other ways to ensure that this sport, that the women's game specifically, is still growing. And it's really cool to see that they are finding still new arenas to kind of, you know, step into and continue, you know, generating that awareness and facilitating that growth. You know, the fact that you and I are talking about the fact that these particular players have been on these shows for Golazo Network, or that we've got to work side by side with them, is also representative of what they have done, you know, for women's soccer. Their reach is very, very expansive. It's not just in players that we see on the pitch today, but in the media space as well. You know, a lot of those young people that they captivated back then are maybe now doing Attacking Third or doing you know, shows on Golazo Network. So it's incredible. It's incredible to know.
25 years later, we are still celebrating those iconic players that paved the way for so many. Sandra, thank you so much.
Appreciate you, Sandra.
Thanks. Have a great show, y'all.
Don't go anywhere. We are being joined by Missouri Gatorade Player of the Year and former U.S. Women's National Team midfielder Sam Mewis when we get back. Welcome back to Attacking Third. We are so pleased to be joined right now by Gatorade Missouri Girls Soccer Player of the Year freshman. She's a forward, maybe a midfielder. It doesn't matter. She can still score goals. Out of Missouri, Maddie DiMaria, and also former United States Women's National Team midfielder, world champion, Olympian Sam Mewis to the show. Good morning, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Hi. Good morning.
Maddie, congratulations are in order. You are Missouri's best high school girls soccer player of the year, and you're only a freshman. Take us through the emotions you felt when you received this honor.
It was a surreal moment in my life. I'll forever remember it. Like, I have never been more excited and like more honored to receive something. It's a huge award, and I really had no words. Like, I was standing there and I was like, I don't even know what's happening right now. But no, it was so awesome. It was such an awesome day, and I am so thankful and honored to have been able to be here and have this experience.
Sam, can you give us just a quick, your version of the impact of this award and what it actually means for future gen soccer players?
Yeah, obviously, I mean, this award is such an honor. I think Gatorade does such a great job bringing the athletes in, bringing them together, giving them kind of this taste of a professional event. And Maddie's been getting her hair and makeup done. She's going to the ESPYs later. So it's a huge honor to get the award. It's such a high recognition for talent of players across the entire country. And for Maddie to win at only 15 and as a freshman, which has never been done before, is so cool and such a testament to her skill level and talent in the future that is clearly so bright for her. So I'm really excited for Maddie.
Maddie, this one's for you. First of all, congratulations on all the success so far. You're really early in your career, but you've achieved a lot. What kind of advice have you asked from a pro like Sam besides you about how to kind of chart your career path and move forward?
Well, obviously, she accomplished a lot in her career, and like she is such a great leader. But how did you lead a team to that much success? Like, I just like wanted to like you've accomplished so much and you've done so much, and you're obviously like a winner in almost every level. And I just was wondering how you lead a team to success and how you continue to do it more than once.
Yeah, I mean, it's so sweet to hear Maddie ask that. It's been so fun meeting with her, and I think I would just respond and say it really is all about the team around you. I think just from meeting Maddie, I got to meet her mom last night. She's clearly such a hard worker, and she's so humble, and so she has all of these traits that will clearly create such a great player and such a great leader herself. So I think us having this opportunity to share some of these questions and some of these moments together is super exciting. Maddie clearly has a lot of qualities that are going to make her even better moving forward. So I'm excited to be here with her to share in some of these.
Sam, a question for you. Now that you have actually coached a bit for Vermont Green, your experience there, now that we're going to call you Coach Sam.
Great.
How has that shaped sort of your advice to Maddie or to others going forward? And do you think we'll see you in the coach seat again soon, perhaps?
Oh my gosh, wow. I don't know about that. I'm pretty busy with the podcasting and just covering with the women's game right now. Coaching was so much fun. I learned a ton about everything that it takes to coach. Like, so much goes into it. I said on my podcast, actually, I kind of forgave any frustrations that I've ever had with coaches because it taught me so much about all the considerations and really having to do whatever's best for the team in any given moment. And that can be hard at times, maybe not getting to sub in players or having to make a decision that's not best for everybody. But I think when I look at somebody like Maddie, who's so young and hungry and has her whole career ahead of her, it makes me feel really excited that there are players out there that will continue to move up in the ranks, and maybe we could cross paths again if I do get into coaching. So time will tell, but I am really enjoying what I'm doing right now for sure.
Now, Maddie, what are you going to do with your winnings now that you've got this to donate to the charity of your course?
I am going to donate it to Spensa. It's an organization I've worked there and like volunteered to help kids with special needs like play soccer. So every Sunday there's like kids who come out with their parents, and there's a bunch of volunteers, and it's at like my local club. And I was going to donate my winnings there to that organization, as I've been volunteering for a while and grown to love the program and all the people in it. So.
Love that. Love that.
That is absolutely awesome, Maddie. You have a busy summer coming up, summer break before you head into your sophomore year. It's crazy to believe. Congratulations. But there's a lot of football happening this summer. It is the summer of soccer. And the United States women's national team is headed off to Paris for the 2024 Olympics. And there's a lot of good competition to come. So I want to know from both of you your predictions for the Summer Olympics. Which team is going to be standing on the podium receiving gold at the end of this tournament? Maddie, we'll start with you.
No pressure.
I'm going for our team, US. Like I no other team I'd want to root for than them, and I have total faith that they'll put the best on the field and they'll bring everything they have to represent the crest.
Okay,
Maddie said it
who's
so
silver?
well. What'd you say? Who's going to win silver? Maddie?
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea.
I know, it's tough.
Such a hard, yeah.
Maddie said it really well. I'm definitely rooting for the U.S. I actually spoke with Emma Hayes and a couple players earlier this week, and Emma's enthusiasm that she's bringing just seems really contagious. So I'm excited for this young squad to have an opportunity to go out and showcase everything that they've been working on. I think we're really being set up for success. I think some other top teams, Spain, obviously. I'm really excited to watch Japan play this summer. And then there are a couple of teams who had such great World Cups last year, like Colombia. I'm excited to see Zambia. So I think in such a small tournament with 12 insanely talented teams, I'm really interested to see who's going to make it out of the groups. It's such a competitive tournament with a really quick turnaround. So there's a lot of variables and a lot of factors, but we're definitely cheering for the U.S.
I love to hear that. That is music to our ears at this desk for sure. Maddie, congratulations. Sam and Maddie, thank you both so much for joining us today.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Don't go anywhere. Plenty more Attacking Third because we sit down with Emma Hayes and chat with her ahead of the United States heading off to Paris for the 2024 Olympics. Welcome back to Attacking Third. Earlier this week, Ali Trost-Martin and I had the pleasure of chatting with United States Women's National Team head coach Emma Hayes for Golazo Network. Take a listen.
It's a busy time coming up for you, so we appreciate you taking the time to join us today. The group is getting close to the Olympics, a couple of send-off games coming up. What's the mood amongst the group and for you getting set for this big competition ahead?
Well, obviously everybody's very excited. We have most of the players arriving today, so we come together this evening with a meeting and then tomorrow training together in a build towards the Mexico game at the weekend. So all of our focus is on preparing for that and building off of the good work from the last camp.
In this new upcoming camp with these two send-off games, you'll take on Mexico and you also take on Costa Rica. What are the challenges that you expect to see from this competition to test your group?
Well, I think if we, go backwards to the Gold Cup and we look at the performances against Mexico, it'd be a great opportunity for us to see, what work we've put in place and how that will impact that performance. I know the team, were really disappointed with both the outcome and the performance in that game. So I think it gives us a great steer to see if the learnings have been in the right direction and, what we need to keep improving on, because I think Mexico are a very good team.
Coach, what are some of those key areas of improvement that you're still looking to see as your group tunes up for the Olympics?
Probably the big thing for me is control, but I want to make sure in every game we're in charge of, managing the ability to do what we want to do in the game. So being patient enough in our possession to progress the ball, I think is an essential component of tournament play. And I think for us as a team, making sure everybody from front to back on the same page, especially both sides of the ball.
Coach, looking forward to the Olympics, you announced your roster, 18 players that are on the full roster, 4 alternates that are also joining you in Paris for the Olympics. Goalkeeper Jane Campbell, midfielder Hal Hirschfeld, and Croy Bethune, and then forward Lynn Williams. When you look at just those 4 alternates, they pack a punch. But what went into the decision-making to bring those 4?
No, that's a good question. I think I've always got one eye on what we're doing now and what we're doing in the future. I think that's important. That I've mentioned before, there are a lot of players within this squad that haven't developed a lot of international experience and don't have the cap accumulation, which I think does play an important part for future success. So we have to start doing that. But I also think with players like Croy and Hal, they've been top performers in the NWSL, alongside Lynn Williams before her injury. And I think in Jane Campbell came into camp, to be honest, there was nothing to separate the goalkeepers. But, I feel that the alternates will play a critical part of the 22, and the fact that we have the ability to be able to make changes if there's temporary injuries, I think will demonstrate that all 22 players will matter.
That's a big statement. I like to hear that all 22 players are going to matter in this Olympics. What is the protocol to getting those 4 extra players involved in the full 18 during the Olympics?
Well, the protocol for that, from my understanding, is that if there is an injury to a player, a temporary injury to a player, we can swap an alternate with one of the 18 with 6 hours notice, and then we can flip it back if the player within the 18 recovers from injury. So that gives flexibility where didn't exist before. Sometimes I wonder why they didn't just say it's 22 players, but I don't make the rules, but I certainly believe in a whole squad, so I know everybody will count.
Coach, there was so much anticipation to your arrival, and now that you've gotten to be with this group in person, what are some of the pleasant surprises that you've discovered in working with this group of players?
I've said it, so many times. They're great learners, great listeners, great learners. They apply. I think we talk so much about what the college education system does for them on the pitch, but off the pitch, there's so many, not just determined women, but they're thought leaders. They understand how to grasp ideas and concepts quite quickly. They're well educated. I think that makes it easier for learning, but they're also a group that so desperate to do well and improve. It just stood out to me, the level of humility amongst the group.
When you look at this group, of course, there are named captains that will take on a lot of the leadership of the 18 and the 22 in Paris. But who are other players that have stepped up and maybe shown you a different side of their leadership being in camp with you?
Well, look, first of all, I think we have to mention there's a lot of veteran leadership, from Melissa Nair to Crystal Dunn, Emily Sonnet, Rose Lavelle, to name a few, Lynn Williams. There are players that can take responsibilities for the team. But beyond that, there are, I think, so many future leaders, something I aim to develop them as leaders, getting them to understand what that looks like. And of course, in Naomi Girma, we've got, a player that's got unbelievable experience, someone her age, but I think a future leader for this team. But I honestly could say it about a lot of players across the group, and I'm expecting everybody to contribute in one way or another.
Coach, we have a really special event happening in collaboration with the send-off match against Mexico in celebration of the 1999 team. And really, when you look back on the history of the U.S. women's national team, that group was so influential in how the U.S. women's national team is even perceived today. You have a big job ahead to get this team back up to some of those expectations and standards. Yeah. What is your perception of that 99 team and what they mean to not just the U.S. women's national team, but women's soccer as a whole?
Well, I've often said this. They were my role models. I never had any in England, but that team was certainly that for me. So being given the opportunity to lead the current team while hosting the 99ers is like a personal dream. And I have a few surprises in store for the whole group in terms of stuff that I want us to prepare the current team for going into the Olympics. Building on the legacy of the 99ers and everybody who's represented the shirt. But I think, of course, expectations are there. I think it's so important, though, that our group focus on the here and now and the things we can control and doing our best to represent the shirt in the best way possible, but do that in a way that I think allows us to perform, and there's no point piling more and more pressure on a team that is almost having to, achieve sometimes unrealistic expectations from the fan base. But one thing I know is that everybody is going to do everything they possibly can to make sure the shirt is represented in the best way possible.
A lot to come for this group and for you, Coach, but the outfits and the shoe game as well. You mentioned you're going to do a little shopping right now while you're in New York. What can we expect to see you dressed in on the sidelines for the send-off games and the Olympics?
Listen, packing for this trip was impossible. And I've got to think about my 6-year-old joining me as well. So I had to think about packing for him. I have got everything and nothing all at once. I've got a classic women's suitcase, which is lots of things, but most of them you don't really need. So I suspect I will be trying to rescue the situation somewhere through the tournament where I might need to get some clothes. But actually, my mum's coming and I love my mum's clothes, so maybe I'll borrow some of hers.
Oh, that's the best, when you can share clothes from your sister, your mom, your friend. You double your wardrobe.
Exactly. Emma Hayes, ladies and gentlemen, she is just like us. She also struggles with the what's where I packed everything, but yet nothing at all. That happens to me every single vacation I go on. But one thing we do know about Emma Hayes, she's going to be dripping on the touchline. We look so forward to watching you lead this group through the 2 send-off games and in the Olympics as well. Best of luck. Enjoy your time in New York, and thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Take care.
Me in stitches.
Plenty more attacking third to come. We're diving into the Women's Euros qualifiers and previewing those matches. Welcome back to Attacking Third. The UEFA Women's Euros qualifiers continue on Friday with England taking on Ireland and France facing Sweden in Group A3. England, so far they've won all 5 previous meetings against Ireland, while France and Sweden have been a bit more back and forth. France currently sit atop the group with 9 points through 4 matches, But now it is match day 5, the second to last match day in the UEFA Women's Euros qualifiers, and we have to preview it. We're going to start with England versus Ireland. England currently sitting in third in the group on 7 points. Ireland at the bottom of this Group A3. They haven't picked up any points so far in the qualifiers. In the reverse fixture in Ireland back in April, England won 2-0 over Ireland. Now they meet again. This time they are at Carrow Road. England are the defending Euro champions, Aaron, but when you think about how much this game means to England, they have to get the top 2 spots in the group in order to directly qualify. Otherwise, they have to continue playing more games. What do you want to see from England heading into this match?
Yeah, they've only scored 6 goals in 4 matches, so a bit more attacking efficiency, a little bit more zip on the ball, a little bit more, I would say, energy in their play. And this is as you mentioned, this is an incredibly important match. And let's not forget also, we're about to go into an Olympics that there will be no British representation, and that falls on England because they were the nation chosen to represent Great Britain for the Olympics. So there's a lot of pressure on this team's shoulders. Obviously, the caliber of opponent in Ireland is not like it would be a France, but this is still a very, very difficult team to play against. They will be obstinate. They will kick the mess out of England, and so it's a really, really difficult match for them.
Yeah, this is going to be a battle of the underdogs with Ireland. I would love to see them qualify for their first Euros. It's kind of a big ask, though. You know? Them having qualified for the 2023 Women's World Cup was massive because that's the only tournament that they've ever qualified for. They have a lot of really good talent and scrappy players, but it's going to take a little bit more than a shirt tuck or two to get things done in an enforcer. So put up a fight, Ireland.
Yeah, and they could do that. Ireland has the ability to disrupt England's day. And when you look at the Lionesses, they are without forward Lauren James, who is a big contributor in the attack. But, Christy, when you look at the players that Serena Wigman does have for this England squad, who needs to step up?
Lauren Helm, Chloe Kelly, literally any of them. I mean, they're all capable. They're really, really excellent technical players. It's just a matter of being clinical and getting the job done. I think that's part of their issue is like they may get the shots off, but they're just not worthwhile shots.
Who do you want to have a big day with?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think England's strength, they have a big strength in midfield. I think Keira Walsh is a fantastic holding player. I think Georgia Stanway is an incredible box-to-box player, and they create a good number of chances, but they're not efficient in front of goal. They don't necessarily have that's our number 9 who's going to bang goals for us. Alessia Russo is a good player, but she's not as clinical as she should be. That, in a nutshell, is what England, they have to be more ruthless in front of goal.
England versus Ireland, that match Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Another big one, France versus Sweden, also in this same group with England and Ireland. France at the top of the group with 9 points. Sweden, they sit in second at 7 points. At the reverse fixture, that was in Sweden. France defeated the Swedes 1-0 on a late Wendy Renard goal in the 80th minute. But France, Aaron, has struggled to convert their chances in front of goal. Only 2 shots on target against England in their last match. What can France do to be more clinical?
They're very similar, France and England, in that respect, is they have a lot of quality, especially in midfield, but they're not efficient in front of goal. Marianne Katoto, she's only got 2 goals in this campaign, but that is the key for them. They have a lot of really, really good creative players. They have a strong midfield. They have a pretty solid defense, but they're not good in front of the goal. They create chances, but they do not tuck them away. So for them to be the elite echelon to really, really continue to push. Obviously, they're on top of their group right now, but to really continue to push and challenge, they have to be better in front of goal.
Yeah, you're right. England and France are a strange mirror at this point. France have just not been as polished as they've been in the past, and they have not gotten a very strong start for most of these games, especially when you look at, like, you have a Diani, you have Cascarino, you have Mack, Sandy Baltimore.
Yeah.
They have such good technical players that consistently perform for club that just aren't clicking for country at this point, which is just a bizarre problem to have. I would say, if anything, like, I had expected more of someone like an Amandine Henry, maybe just because club play has been lackluster for her. But there's so many other players that could step up that should be stepping up, and it's just not happening.
This is match day 5, and you guys both mentioned England and France so equal, and they have a lot of the same things happening. The last time they played in the last match day, France defeated the Lionesses 2-1. However, for France now, as they take on Sweden, this is the final 2 matches of France before they host the 2024 Paris Olympics. How much pressure does that put on this French side to perform well as a lead up into the Olympic Games?
It's a ton of pressure because the types of matches that you get with qualifiers and important matches that really, really count is that you get to see what your players are made of. You get to see players with real stakes. When you're the host, you don't really necessarily get that. But I against a really obstinate Sweden team, a very, very good Sweden team, it's both a massive test and a really important lead up to the Olympics for this France team, I think.
A lot of pressure on France's shoulders as they take on Sweden. We'll see what happens, though. Those matches for the Euros qualifiers, match day 5 happening on Friday. And on Saturday, the United States will take on Mexico. Following that match immediately on youtube.com/AttackingThird, we'll be going live to recap the United States versus Mexico match. But there's some exciting news, guys. We've been nominated. Attacking Third has been nominated for a People's Choice Podcast Award, the best female-hosted podcast. So go in the podcast description of this episode, go on YouTube and look in the description for the link and vote for us.
Vote or we will find you.
Vote for us. Please vote for us.
He'll go violence, I'll go love. Either way, we'll get this done.
I didn't say I was going to be violent when I found him. I'm just going to give him a stern telling.
Okay, fine. Fear or love, both.
Either way, vote for us. We're happy to have you. We wouldn't be anywhere without everyone that listens to us and watches us and follows us on social media. So thank you, everyone, so much. podcastawards.com/app/sign up. That's it for us today. What a great show. We talked 99ers.
We finally got me and Cupo in the same place.
Finally.
We were like ships passing in the night usually. We got to hang out. High five, Cupo. Yes.
It was so good. It was so good. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you soon.